Assalamualaikum badingolu ngal kontom mobe dawda ni be watu watito konton roko lansnal bismillah na programo min gazro jang lokungo lokum ni nyen temben zida Natariko Malo Mustafa Jamme mimbe siri program ko na nyintan ben ka radio to and Facebook ni YouTube ni Instagram streamline also yo din kumbonya komindal ta ka nyame lokum ni nyantan ben sida bi na alpha bu nyari ngol so rem fe jang alpha bu nyari ba mi yalon ko na komandi bunya kono amang balang anata nam pour que taram fe jang kula mimbe dan na ka cha ko bi inshallah ka cha ba diala bake wolong nene bojanti ngawer nene nyino sinya folo de prana jam bari akete nye kontanu ti bake pour ka sotom fe bi pour kana ka kacha kula mim na kacha kumoti maternal aning matroki so aning Dr. Professor Enza Toure Benfe studio kono lokungo ngata katara janne yo nte feo fenkela nse tentu ngeji nga Dr. Nse folo bula ine mole nyo konton ni obara jen sina nene kan Dr. Nimbare mo kembe Doctor, hold on. I think ibe on mute la, on mute. Yes, okay. Say mga on mute la. You can go ahead. Is it
okay, Alkamwele.
Say Ngemwele clearly, yes.
Okay, wala nyinti ngayon bunda minta kayele kajibe kumusol benya dila Afrika kono janen tibabo ni Arabo la na kana kabin Afrika dunia mara musol be nyaadile musol makamu be nyaadile ni condition wala na nata nyim bundata nyim topiko tan ko maternal luami yalon ko ay musol sementu yande kamansa wala nyinti mansa min kana musol karola ni loi la constitution matraki musol mansa ya kanya wala na ko mansa watola wala na birin dunta ko nata framework fe ka tandi wala na lafta mola min yalon ko bi wulta ibe musola ko to kan ka musol sementu yandi amba katandi ko musola sementu ya amanke ko abota bantale o bantalan ko long wala afrika le musol be bar katandi molla ko amiro bota mun tole anin akenya bota mun tole wala na bi ni sina kachanyo ya isaje ko nga alhalul nga koljibe o alhalul jibe jamani fulato wala jamano mi yalan ko tumo min afrika ba fon janni anin arabol ka sudnyola janning anin tibabol ka sudnyola so wala tinna killo ke kamol invite min yalon ko londo so nyim fanna ni se kaja isaje ko ngamurun kol kan afrika fonde al halo to a fonde kol mi yalon ko abekala fon la talan siroti ate kala fendi mi yalon ko abekala bantal influence la min bine afrika la ala barka nene min bara ila na ko kan jang
ene mbara ke docteur buru nene nde fofa ngelan se fanan tentu ngeje ngebula ene muli nyokon tong nene bojang
okay abaraka Mustafa aning Dr. Toure kontanta bake albedo ku kendole ke kam be Sky Power Radio and TV services mbal fantastic listeners will be kontonna mange ñuyu askan bi yépp an kontanta bake le biyo kany abunya warata bake ngoto ma jang anin na mento ndey jobate wala nyanta tara la jang but for one reason or another akonte la nyanta nala pour ka nyin pour ka karandiro ke ka la moyro ke anin ka long menketa Africa so I'm really excited
Thank you very much, Nene. Welcome, ma. Go na kacha kung lafta nga minjibe, walong matrilineal aning matraki. O niya jibe manding ka kangoto
Matraki.
isa boko musuman saya, akita niya dile, akumas na niya dile, adunta na niya dila, nata na niya dile. Nimo kuti mi along ko abunyata bake mfe. Nimusole doko ke jama bake ameta woto Gambia. This was in the 90s, 1980s. 1990s. Nkata dulalto nka funti molkan nika kacha kulla mimbe dending musolla nyantola dol sa foye ko nyinu mo activist olati dol sa foye ko nyinu kam musolla nyantola kala bari kulo nyinti mi yalon ka bunya tam fe bake koku ibe dunna kono min ko mata je ko nyin yalon and ni yalon ya establish pour kana kamol karandala because jama balo kono ni aje mol man ñoo faham mol kamera ko nata pour ka ñoo korindi like competition bari min ko mata balogo wolo al nga ñoo karandi ndanga domandi long docteur domandi long nene domandi long ngala ñoo kan nga jama ba soto civic education so mo balo ko no fenne de mi along is really important kuti tala no akoma so kamala fana ni kata mol kan mol min ni along ko ila fahamo ani la jerinya ani la jerinya mankeling the best approach ndaka je nyame wolong ni fongo tembe ñoyandi ni fongo kanyandi ye fongo jindi to their level ni diamuto ni a fam e ka understand but ni fon ci kandiro nata ko kono ron do bije faham baliya katara ye do ka mira ko warole bije para be ka wari so ku ananya ku ana fonya ana kenya ana kewat wakati na kumata bake bi modol bije isamera ko musol la nyaton kaya wo mo bi kulet modol bije isamera nyim musuman saya molba kukuto la keleka bari docteur ngaje ko nyimmanke kuti mi alon ko kukutalon kumere ngolon mosa fa fang across africa lafte en kono dia jang docteur
ala barka Mustafa comme ko nga musolla ko fo nyamen wati ninga jibe afrika la kenya la ibaje ko miral jamal kana funti bantal la anu afrika fana falindro natale min kada influence ti kabir ning arabol islamo e contact soto nin tibabol e contact soto bari nata min jawolo nyinti ko fanna dol biri maral nyakita afrika bodo colonial sol bulu nata je movement soto da mirol ko tibabol ya min kana kamira ko afrika muso doyale bal lafta min naw nyin ko wolo nyinti ko kaje ko afrika muso nyanta la tariko folo karanna aya long ka fon position di moye tariko karan ye ko malon altol mun sifa nya de leti al kal fon position ne wolo nyintal kal wudul fon kal fon la jamano kono albe jamano min kono so do wo kamala wala tinna bal min kata leboti min kata short community afrika la musu jamalo hana karan nalo e kaje ko nibe lanfero ke la karan wala fannala e ka tariko lanfele la karan nyala wo ka tinna ko pour ka sujudo ke la kenya la ka bo condition mi yalan ko be jamana min ko ka sujudo ke ni wala tariko e tol dande dam kana aka kole bulu wala tinna do bije filoka ke ibikala ka bo damin so e ka present wala nyindi ko be jamano ni ko conditional jibe e african ta ye define wo kono ni na da musola ko la ninga fale nyamin wala nyindi ko katandi ko fon muso manke fenti nim mirola nin karamola nin londola aman folo afrika kono amanke afrika taran sila fam amanke afrika la munti amantar afrika la luwa kono anu amantar afrika la maral kan kono han ala fankola karo amantar di amiro boto tibabo le ani ajibe e kaminke wolo nyinti ko birim yalan ko black africa dulalo mi yalan ko dunya la civilisation a kuno a folote jel tol ko dawdo nali yaje ko hadama dungol la kuno iba jel nyaadi le mol min yalan ko e tolla maral kan ila economy ila hadama diya yaje ko tar ko nyin kono kele sembo soto I'm sorry kele sembo soto tar ko kono kele sembo soto tar ko kono yaje ko ni tar ko jibe ye kella sembo jo tar ko kono jamano la min yo ke sembentu yandi nim political la foka political kan fontende political organisation fontende fankoni ko be e ko salon ko wo mol civilized anu min yo ni safaro ke ni mutibabo la lonna ballati hekel wolu wol be ni safi ani so many of them min yan ko tibabo intellectual lo wole min fo wolo nyinti ko ye jamano de tariko kono ni lafta lo no wo mol la civilisation be nyaadi e manque da fe ngoti la organisation kono e manko be ngolti akal salon ko wo mol nali ajibe kelle la sembo wata kelle ku active ila taransilo bela wo moli badira ko kelle dominance do wollo multiminal ko civilized but tumomi na yaje ko musolla taransilo sera dawde kama sodo jamani kono ye kama sodo jama min kono wala society nyin kono ye kama sodo mol min tariko min kono ya musola kama je dawda alon ko wolmu dafe wala anu nyimmiro bodo tibabo la intellectual le bulu amamba mo fi wala intellectual so niaje natal in fact janka fale ko pour musolu nsa munno tarko kan ngajibe mino musoti jumalo musoti birin dunia fon starta dunia ka masa kunda folo lo jumalo musoti masa kunda folo min lota dunia kabin adama do data wo masa kunda folo firahona folo sutolo ko ikafo firahona le namer numolo lonna balo ala muso dolka balo dolka la musolo wala kam soto wala ka decision o make wodo anu niaje wo decision o ka make mino akamans atebe mansa minna ama soto nin kela a soto nin musolla and wo muso a soto na muso ni na purity so wala na lafta mole munu fankan ka long bawo ni na musola ni long iba jela ko ibe paradigm shift ka wala nyeko ibe taransilo falinale ni la miro la musola afrika kono isa de ko akana jel ko ke ko moti babo la nin kola kon tolman fe long tolman wayatra jamano o jamane fo fe nata ni ajibe iba sulo bola jela akabo afrika ko so nyim fe mo ko nata wala na lon na do e min fo wala nyinti ko ako ni lafta lon na ko mol civilized ibe lon na minela to mo min ne tole dimba manipulate dimba ka minake dimba mo energy lati aka elide nata ko dan e tole banko min kita pototi biko potole ka lo roke hadama duwol ko bungollo e ka fenjamal dada yene munun ko ikita molot min yalan ko e safiro fontindi safiro ka bilake aka londole na fena a londi dula killing al determine atole londi sifa nyaade sodo akoni so ni aji be ko civilisation o be ko and wo mol mi o civilisation sifa fontindi wo mol kita molle society le min yalan ko kel kita ke jawrolti woriyolu kel kita mansa kelti kel kita planalti anno atibaba ko tolu ito tibabo le ko wala tinna pour que tol tibabo samba santo ko tibabo le kella ke ya kam bindi musolla musiyato ila ko bela wala tinna itol kadi ko wala to la miroti wana sek anta jo funtita katibabo doya ila jahiliya la imalo minon matrakiti wala musola kan imalo minon matrilinealti wala musoya sembenya de so luwa ko faka mansa kunda londi faka kel dictate atem milati so nyinne atinna nata benjambi katandela ko pour musoli se munun tariko kay folo musoli nyata tariko karanda but niya jebano jibe even in most of the universities mo ninka doya pour que history major musoli bi ka son so ikadi ko africa fana bola nyama wala na be koleala pour musoli ya long itolla downfall anila marginalization a history boda mun to so wala na nato kono pour ka tandiela ka al karandi ka nyo ya ka nyo fahamundi ali ajibe colonialism mu boda africa ka ko jibe colonialism mu boda africa kono jang bilya colonialism established bo jangol kita sefoti kombo be ko bo jangol kita sefoti most of the kombo la blal be to bala jibe fo nene musu sefoti tibabo le musu sefo appoint colonial government fa nene musu sefo appoint anene ma appoint so katandela ko the historical basis of the decline of matraki anim musolla mansa anila kan africa kono pour aller murun tarko kan pour mo le tarko kan ka long ko nyinkita nyaadi ko ni wonte Kenya do le bina because at Kenya understand natara musolla kan ka support if natara abe bola africa la al halolto ning ado ni fewla ibaje ko continue to be kala kum fa be kala ko be kala was musola kuma africa kono but natara boda influence dol kono aboda dol bladol to mi yalon ko anin jamman killing ila adol man killing ila nonol man killing tardulal man geographically ibaje ko abina Kenya do wululan tolye in many ways abe kala conflict in tolia internally abe kala because it is not going to be culturally relevant but iba namo woke nan not affair long iba conflict in the society kono a new conflict wala wali of society kono because albe min promote kan asulo mambo ni africa ado kono la so wala nan ko sinatar ko ni ado la ka fu mole ko milliatin muso because yajibe nka min fale frown am horse bin abala muso abe akita mansaketi bide jin Syrian ol tibabol bay si Indo European ol bay Egypt ko yo madal wato mum ay kontano min sodo aka jayiro min be kam musolla wol kita musu wori wol be musu wori le wol fata kelo le kono wala na wo musol mi o kelo ke kaji ko Syrian ol funti ay mina I fend the Londi, pour moi c'est tout le temps, remembrance or memory. So no tough, I order that. Katandiko, you must warrior. You let in a being to the Syrian or bay, and one Latin at the Mansata. One Nakata, a confa Bama, I can follow Musola Bama because Mansaka will Carola, it get a warrior to me. So left the Musol somebody historical realities. Imagine a call, imagine Africa Musoba for the Captain Minute. So wala na niya Ghana Empire jibe pour que background di la niya Ghana Empire jibe ke bika mansaya na mo musola karola Ghana Empire mansake di mo bika mansaya mansake bari musu di mo ka mansaya tanta fo musola purity the same thing in Mali so ikaje ko niya jibe muso ay kule ko wala na niya jibe in modern Africa birin tibabol dunta ya asanti awa in Ghana birin colonial governor ko asulata golden stool la and the tole ni ko golden stool it only all used medically pour que la mol be unify ka foko asentil be la niyo be wala kono so alota ko in se fama be bula tiba bolie for the golden stool avec le I must lead to fight against the colonialists to protect golden stool and the akela soxita although ya fam wutale asamba so be min na wala ni ko New problem will mean solve dunia kono. Every problem at a solve no Natariko. So left alone because musola gender and whatever. Ngajeko Bible influence you. But for Taransilo bijele mi alonko Alkata from history. So now matter from history, Ali continue according to Adola, according to Ibadelko Abina Kudo Fela, then Bina Waliokia society. But left Adelef bo Africa fola konto kono bo Africa fola mankuto kono anala Kenya be kono isa je soma taransilo eta molbe fonjela accordingly muso momo ka ko muso bi man saketi and momo fonka even in Islam ko muso la mansamu whatever one fani ati no Quran o ti muso la mansali fola wona ala ko e ko Quran o fan kono akoy ko falti tamala nyim bankoka ali ya jibe mol min nata jannatul wol naban tanyadi ala ka min fay wala nyindi ko nte na every story be fele no Quran ko mina do man dina lewe dlale atole bo na ban ni research la ida in anthropology in history in culture in tourism ala ka tourism for muslim mol fon nyin blal bari to mo mina faamro manke ik hadiso ka tambe Quran oti mol ka ko te ke design fon ko musola mansaya musola mansabe Africa stability be lonta wato musola influence anala kama wato mina Africa stability be wato la nyim Gambia mba fula kana kuma fa Gambia nyin tundo be kaba badibu kaba nyomi kata fo munto abem mansa musola nyaje mansa di la ku futantan because mansa kana ni priority la wala itola kalo dumalo famu ding yeloti to ko musola mata wunu nyawa musola mata fulan jawo nina muso lafta nganyala momi lafta nganyala watu wote akalaf kairo wala le muso lafta estetik la baki wala tuna watu mansayaka han over muso but birinti ba colonialism nata there was kind of interruption ani malila maralo or interruption o minketa atandi the only filter tariko ko muso mu milati dum politiko la karola muso mu minti num mo yala karola muso minti num economy ni fanko la karola so wala tinna lafta nan ka kacha pour alsa jibe for gender activity minkata pour nga jibe ba link la no African reality and history and the cultural context alaba
in barabake doctor no observation killing jijang wolo nyinti ko aka najeroto birim musu manse ya bakeri tenku mo bakeri nanu Africa but birin colonial masters will nada yaje ko the only way silol min sa keno pour nga ñu penetrate no nga foye ko itol be minkan wonde silol nim min nada nga wotandila wakamala nse dunno economy men pour nga kunjam for us to fit in this society womu kuti mi alon ko akumata bake jama ka funa diamo kono yidata mol kan yetara nyamen min kumata je wolom e kum ni kunta ila kuma jama bije mol ka lamele ikafu nene ini bara once again doctor aka gunyuro ga kanole fo do bije diamo ka tere diamo ka aka dinka bake man dinka kangoto beri ngalon ne jama ba faham jele boundary ci jang ngafu molele momo niya foning mandinka kangol ni chanta angale fo ni chanta surwa fo ni chanta kango kam fo pour molsa understand no nyame wala ko mata nene malo muna mu ila thoughts ti naka
Yeah. I think Dr. I'm calling him Dr. Professor Toure has said very, very enlightening things here. I believe, I think he's given me new insight into it, because I think even like somebody who spends a lot of time debating, believing that the Human Rights Declaration, I believe everything was stolen from the Quran somehow. Do you know what I'm trying to say? I believe they just took away the religious aspect and called it the Declaration of Human Rights. So what always has confused me, menkang njahase wati dol ninka imam dol moy ko kuma dol fo anim fa ya lon ko the translation of the Quran there read le, and it just looks like it's like the whole of the Human Rights Declaration regurgitated membe Quran o kono, and then kamo imamol kadofo akatinale akam niyo ka Torah le bake ni aka niyo la Torah, and then kamolu ka whole population of whole dino kamo jama filindi wo silola wo fanan kan jena jahase, and then nka modol je menu falon bon tafla koy kol soronta, but imalong ya foye nyameng ya ika understand ya faham wala nya. So I think you've enlightened a lot of things here that come like you call be jahase from colonialism, because obviously near system otara member existing ring, and you want to it will be like Queen Amina Ikamenfo from Ghana and all those things who fought against the Portuguese and all these colonial masters and trying to maintain their prestige in the continent. Obviously, you disempower one group to empower another group, because what new group menye empower, I don't know how to say it, because we need to get as many of the audiences in as well. So how we're going to get the Wolof in is also important. Why it's when you empower the new group, obviously you'll get the loyalty of the new group. So it's very, very enlightening, Professor, that I know that this whole thing got all mixed up at colonialism. So that's gonna be really empowering for me myself when I am giving talks here in Norway for groups, for white people as well. Do you know what I'm trying to say? That I become more empowered and saying, actually, you guys messed up the whole system, so don't go there.
Yes, and that's very good, and you say a lot, and I know you are convinced. So that is where we have to look at how we can design a new paradigm in the context of coming up with gender in Africa. Because the gender that was actually created, it was out of the capitalist perception and the conditions that are already actually rife in the entire Western region. But we need to look at Africa entirely and look at the position of a woman in every sphere or aspect of our existence. Once that is isolated, capitalists will actually bring huge funds in Africa, but the agenda is not actually to rebuild or restructure Africa within the framework of modern civilization, but to create internal conflict, and that internal conflict will create a diversion from economic pathway for Africa, political pathway, or whatever standard. And you see, once we are in conflict situation, we will remain deconstructed in everything. At the same time, Western capitalist economic whatever will remain here because it is going to divert us from technological part. Me fighting with my wife, fighting with mothers, men and what they are fighting, they don't understand what they are fighting for. You want to control me, I want to control you. Because the situation seems to be like that, trying to blame women for hegemony, but the historical basis that actually enhance men hegemony in Africa has never been explored in the background of gender history. So the shift started when? You get me very, very well. So you can understand that in the Gambia, you can understand, even after structural change, when Malian established their hegemony over Senegambia and the entire Senegambia, women were the one who handed over power to men. Like when in Congo, for example, there was a queen. A queen was called Queen Ulandin Jasi. I don't know whether you heard about it or not.
No, I haven't heard
about it. Queen Ulendin
I
Jasi.
welcome that. If you check my documentary on Combo, you will see we gave a full-fledged, detailed examination of the reign of Queen Ulandin Jasi. This lady handed over after understanding the rise of matriarchy, the rise of patriarchal dominance, owing to the Malian influence in the West Coast here. She handed over power to the
Thank you. We've got another doctor here. He's a historian. Dr. Dembo Fati is with us.
Exactly.
Is sending some comments. Dembo is a runaway. Kabunganding olongo.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
why we
Thank
inviting people here for you to understand the trajectories and the condition that might have actually created this condition for men domination in Africa. But Africa has never been a male-dominated area. Most of the pharaohs, even the Quran talk about that. When Moses was brought through the sea, and the pharaoh wanted to slaughter Moses, who influenced the pharaoh not to do that? Was it not the woman?
I think it's the woman.
The wife.
Wife. Yes.
Either they call the woman Nefertiti or whatever. It was the woman. That's why the God says, traverse through the earth. He is telling, I'm giving you this small story as a microcosm for you to understand so many things. But the Quranic readers and Ustaz fail to move to understand the Quran within the context of expanded history. In this situation, what happened? Actually, Pharaoh and his wife's situation is never understood within the context of dominance of women within the political system. Pharaoh's wife has more power than even Pharaoh, had more power. And that actually led to the survival and protection of the life of Moses. That was an example to us.
That's right. But I found that feeling, observation do for young. I convinced that Dino la fanala because Dino Natale more Dino dol ka fumole abanyame malo for yemela.
Do you know why you need to understand the orientation based on the Arab history before Islam? Arab never actually respect or value or honor woman. Because they were bearing a girl child alive, and it was considered actually abomination to have a female child. So based on that understanding, and we were incorporated into Islam, Black Africa was incorporated into Islam in the 6th century. Owing to that situation, the same mentality and orientation was kind of transferred, muffled into the Islam, and that is why you can see the adaptation and adoption of that imbalances in terms of perception, in terms of gender perception. You get it very. So if you go to Saudi Arabia, and this has been their history, so woman is to be looked as well. That's why you see many Arabic scholars will consider women to be actually indoors. You get me very, very well. So this is the situation. So based on the orientation of Arabia, that actually brought Islam and actually leading to the Arab cultural flow into West Africa, it actually affect and shape the orientation of people on gender imbalance. So you have to understand all these people need to understand this context. Since Arabs were not respecting women, and Islam that even actually brought them to adopt a certain level of that, and our people had contact with Arab and orientation. You see, section of Muslims in Africa had to adopt the same conception. So we want those in gender activity to go into the historical background to understand the historical genesis of the decline or marginalization of women in Africa. It has to be based on either through Middle Eastern influence from the Arab, or either from the Western colonial influence through the Atlantic Sea. So lots of things need to be learned, because we want them to know a lot about the history. If the whole a pharaoh was a king, because pharaoh is not something new. A pharaoh is just a title. Like even in Mandinka, they call Farang. Mansas were called Farang. That's like Pharaoh. They call their Mansa Farang. That's why they call Farang Tamba. Farang whatever. We were all the same, we are black people. The whole of one of the pharaoh in the 17th dynasty called Amos, when he established the cenotaph, he was actually kind of eulogizing, glorifying. Because of what? Because his position was given to him as a result of the influence of the powerful woman. That's why at the end of that eulogy, he had to glorify his own wife, call her Teteshere. Teteshere. For Teteshere. So when you can understand that what was a woman, because I want every woman to understand who was a woman. Who was a woman in the context of African history? And what position did women actually assume in the pre-colonial or in the pre-Islamic during the beginning of the war? So this is where you can understand. So we brought you people here to understand that in order for us to actually blame Africa for marginalizing women, you understand, because complementarity has been in African existence for many years when it comes to gender complementarity.
Right.
Complementarity in the sense here, because we understand.
Doctor, I'm getting some comments here.
Okay.
Someone saying, go Allah angale kama bosiare mbakela bi. Yeah, mandinka ko ni surwa ka falala, kana worry back it. Them boy coming ako, the West is trying to include us in their collective guilt. I'm struggling to find a female leader colonialism produced in Gambia. In fact, the syllabus for girls was limited to cooking and knitting. So that's from Dr. Professor Dembo Fati. Adela mungana adela Professor Yatabul. So you along nene malo muno mo ila observation or your thoughts on this aspect as well, Dr. Edamema.
Are you talking about Doctor, the one that you just read right now, Doctor, or what Esa? Which one?
Yeah. Dr. Esa, yeah. Dr. Yeminfo, Dr. Dembo Yeminfo, I take a contribution. All comments and contributions are welcome, but the conversation, your thoughts come up. Yeminfo can dino la fanala because you have in the confused before. Because near GB Arable side doesn't read le demanding. Muso mankumaya Arabo nyako. And Arabo meaning nata Africa, as far as I'm aware, not reading demanding auto. Will manna purka dino fanga sambana will nata Julayale samba. Mal, is that correct, Doctor?
Yes. Another Julayale fe barnela jibe yalo Islamo dino e kuf dantane ke Arabo e ala balu kono. Comme que dunia be civilisation o londi dula beleto. Dula kili na man civilisation so fo molu nyambutele man pare fo etarele marat kanko.
Wala mundode.
Roman Empire empire londi civilized. Ethiopia Empire mimu mo fingol fon tati. Wobe balu kan balu nya nyima ani londola ani luala ani basantai. Ñu la sutura dunia kono jani islamo kana. Arabo li kejel ko tumbol fon bi ka ko nyanta ñu fon include na marat kanko. Ila muta fenti. But ala fana ni mol jutura mol min bela ate ala intervention kana ni bala fale la pour que o mol ta ke augment wala nyinti ke improve the trust standard dunia bebe mi ko wala ajibe aka foye ko jannal kana al modol jibe al kana mi ko ngamin dialla atule fi sala mobete malo fi kansan so o arabo la woni na to be jibe ila na ay minakela islamo e simple amba ay minakela ay institutional system le seb ay maral kan di le goy ma maral kan sono arabol man man sakunda ne ma suru janning prophet muhammad kana arabu man sakunda man suru saudi arabia family lo whatever ikanyo kala musukola loko fula musukili na ko ikanyo kala what the same people nimu ya muso wulu ya muso sare e di muso sare alive so islam on ada min dila wala nyinti ay institutional stable dila ni loi ni man sakunda la ka ay milake ay technology advance warrior likita warrior ti ikela di ka bankol mara nani daw ay save commercially ay internet trade ni na fela from the trade and intellectual I often adila but nin nani daw min kita trade wala julati islam o nyanta tani islam o be fudla nyin julal ko na fudu tan julal ko wala sam bari la na julal kana dunia kono bi de political control ya spend control ya je ko mo ko lati ife ito nyanta sila mo ko le ko iko west africa min kita Ghana di western sudan mbitala ngela sanol sunya ikontola masakunda mu Ghana empathy ko mu kafiri masakunda te and wo masakunda mi leke ala capital to jamen tan ni fly wala blay loje man sa fo la pale so de wolde han wo because mo fi yakama iko fonga nyula masakunda tina bay be sanon no kan e man tardino no the Ghana empire destroy kan na sano ta ke sambamudo Spain and in Portugal ba wol mo ko le so ni na da jibe mo fi bi nyadi in the context of that but ni mo fi mala tarko karang mo fi bi ideal min tala min nati fon la Kenya manke ana geography manke aba tala la sujunda fon wala nan la lodula min wala ni ko ka tandia la ko wala man na islamization inata ka tinyaro ke to get access to gold mines because during Ghana empire lota they adopted policies arabo min dina ke jori ni Texas for more than 200 years nalu wala nam soldi nyanta tariko kala han soko tariko la syllabus na tata soko Africa la Kenya la niaje tibabol be jutu mo fi wala bi Charles Darwin ko ni theory liminata il encarna le du school to ka je ko tibabol supremacy ay tra mol be la haklo mo fi wala doya tra mo be haklo isa je ko par mo kilin na do jutu na ba wala ka sek anta job dunia be Sénégal bero wannan ko mu solo ko ala jibe ba como só já Natariko caramba.
I just want to say, Professor Dr. Ensa, Sky Power listeners, radio and TV listeners, you're watching an amazing program, B, matrilineal and matriarchy, Natariko. That's what we're discussing today, and as can be, I hope you have to help me here, Mustafa. So we want it to be as inclusive as possible.
Yes.
But membe foteng ensa silane nkuma saka understand fanang munatin na gender activist soul aning nadina nyati nyato ko sometimes ka clash. Because maybe itol jama ifanang karanta damen nom yajele jama ye samba arabo leya ye karandi wala so aning adama dingo ye karandi menna wolondo do ne bebulu so sila maybe found to la kamfari nyul kang maybe it's just about re-education aning be sensitize la nyameng be dialogue encourage la nyameng because ndeka to kamfari kanne ikajela wati dol fonko kumol for imamol ma ikajela mol kam fam fa mal fe on the mol kan hey mol la alfali ka wol leketem because mbuka faham no but silan kabriyen defa sensitize silan defa ya lon ko of course ye karandi nyinela so itol fana ye mem ifana kana ka wol for na molye yaje so it's that misinformation me alon ko wala ka continue. So ita ka fuko come like muson nyanta tala le ko pour kan na Natariko nyin ka ri karang. Bon ba karam na nyadi le because na londa tiol wala nyanta ka long pour kan karandala. So ni man karandala mba lon na nyadi le because ndeka forantu jana maybe ben Netflix le jubela Queen Amina or nga Google whatever about the Serers, Senegambia, how the Serers had matriarchal clans and how they had both the patriarchal and the matriarchy. You know what I'm talking about? But that's that is Senegambia and Gambia and Mauritania, those three regions. And there's not much about others other than the Syrians. You know what I mean? Not too much is documented. Then the rest is Ghana and the other African countries. So tolbenyi Natariko mbe karanna menu blue. Wala fango mu issuti professor. Wala fango mu lolu moy liggéey bi daal fu ñoo jàngee lii fu ñoo xamee xam-xam yi fan lañ ko mun a xam nga fan lañ ko researché institutions yi amuñ foog naa ne recently la Dr. Aïssatou Touré sax yónnil ma dañ set up something about a gender unit in West Africa. I think last year la 2023 ñu am seen first gender unit ñi nga xam ne they are putting up a gender institute pour xam naa li nga wax ni I ka ñi membe foteng pour be wo be wo documentation or be kala dula mentor the African aspect of it so that people who are students of gender like ourselves we can go and research and know more about this. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Because comme ning ko de waxe rek ne ni lafta adama dingol filindi la so buggee réeral nit yi dañ leen a réeral dangaa denc seen history bi ngeen jàngal leen lu ees te loolu moo fi am xam nga lu ma min ñun suñ concept yi ak yu bari luñ jànga maybe they knows more than me why it's more Western based because ñun ñu fa jógee depuis ñu ngi 8 years old xam nga so ñun bu tubaab yi rek lañ xam suñ dinaa la mun a quotal all of the things with the books here all of living bi waaye duma la mun a wax dara except the Syrians xam nga you know what I'm trying to say awma enough information pour mun a actually sit down ma debate ak imam yi ma ne la no nii la demee wut nii you know so that's important so thank you yes
Doctor, I very, very, very important point level jang.
yes
Yalong ning imam ka program o kajang every Friday. Aka nying fonye pake. Ako nyoko ideba Angleterre, ndebo Sweden, abas be America le be US le. Pero yalong imam ate nyin bulal be male asida je karanta je in English or in Arabic ay Arab karang ke ay to am karang ke. So problem o mimbaya ngabaran dol fango contribute je bakele. Dol mol. Okay. Ning minitata tubabu karang la. Ni nada itol ning tubabu londo le kana. Minitata arabu karang la. Ni nada wol ning arabu londo le kana. So the po gadira mimba gunjur ndoleya or mimba base or wherever boy is stuck in the middle of tubabu la karandingo and Arab karandingo ni non nada akoteng same feeling robe damendo. The problem we have is ni tata dulato wala ne ka famoleko karango anin londo duñ ben janga ak xam-xam bita jangum ak xam-xam duñ ben anin londo imankile. So morning karango le kana ye londo fay londo karango ke samba londo la kan londo karango is a mechanism min ke samba pour ye londo soto but nita nata inin karango doron nata wo mim wanditi ite kana wala samba ya foko ibo impose la ntol kan back up and it doesn't work like that. The system mi alonko yetara nyaming pour ka adi kami foko ka nyekere di mo la raw abe koleal pour mo le atano so wayatina filindiro katara kokono idana min karang do bi yena ya fo mo le nyala mi alonko ite ya raw karang wala nyama yena ya raw fo mo wo nyama han alqur'anu fo mate wo nyama wala na fa dol fa ngo because of that wayatina mbenying chance na la gavuko it took us 3 years pour ka alqur'anu base safening manning ka kang English translation and translation puru some of these things they minimize or eradicate no nyame. So Sidi Ali took the time. It took us almost years pour kanyinke but finally the Quran is out. Momo lafita isa san no puria understand tubabu londo arab londo akamol kenyame But Mimun told to maintain that. Doctor, I mean for you, it's a problem.
I mean for Tonyalong, I question killing the race. It will be Tarikul Karano Nyale Kalong. Because the gender-based system is already institutionalized. And another academic discipline that is on you. So that is why in your curriculum, you need to have an historical aspect of gender history in Africa, either from the ancient time to the medieval time. You look at that. From medieval time to modern time, you can actually divide it into different historical phases to understand the condition of women well before our interaction with the Eastern people, Arabs, or Western people, the Tubabs. So actual labor interests are double because if you want to look at it from the Western perspective alone, you are going to engender a sustained, what is called sustained conflict. Wala nyinti ko wali ba album kala. But now alia is a discipline of its own now. It's being studied up to PhD level. Now album kala wala nyinti ko that historical dimension. There should be even 2 or 3 courses regarding the history, either from the political aspect, economic aspect, and the social aspect. You need to design a curriculum. In your curriculum, it must be incorporated there so that we can look at even from the time of the Pharaoh, down from the humanity down, who are these women and what were the roles of women in Africa before the rise of the Western modernity. Akita nyadile, another nyadile. Tariko lebe fontila. Ye tariko jibe, kabu muntola kabu follow to mo follow la. Ninko mo follow wala kana munto kana fo tema kun tariko la tema kun nanko Middle Ages. Ale musol jibe from the Middle Ages you come to the modern time. From the modern time, modern time, Atlantic slave trade. Even you need to look at gender from that perspective because it constituted the global economic system. And when it was abolished, what happened after the intervention, legitimate and the colonial establishment and the colonial control and conquest over Africa? So Musobe within the colonial sphere, in politics, in economy, in culture. So you need a kind of framework from one phase of history to another. You will even, in your reading, you will encounter influential women in Africa, and their achievement will really admire you a lot. You will be inspired by them. The way they command, the way they influence decisions and authority. All these things are hidden, but once you read, because you really need to work on sec ante job most of the time today. So, but Nalman Sambala curriculum gender. The gender take from whatever perspective, Eastern perspective, other perspective, but the African context has never been in the history. So don't let yourself down. You can still be connected to Western gender activity, but make sure that you be an ambassador of Africa in order to actually invoke African historical context of gender. Because this is where there has never been. European modern government started when African 10,000, 20,000, or 30,000 even before, 30,000 after Africans. But historical, now can you solve the problem for women? Huh? Look at that. We are not different from Pharaoh. We are all black people. One Musonyin Tola, why a woman is called Tete Sherry? You know, Mustafa didn't know you were Tete, not so. Never did not have that's baby. Huh? You know, Sherry in our languages. In the Pharaonic language, anything that is cow mean up. All the languages are there. But we will not understand this thing. Nimba murun tariko kam. Ali musol jibe mini anku wale maraloke. Pharaona misura man kansoto. Ajibe bira ala musonyin ala tayran ol natal ke influence. Wala na ni musoy rifsoto. Motherfucker understand. So this is where we need to understand. Nyim tolla balu kono muso e council to baba kele muso was revered yak muso tal ko dino yam tal ko dino. So what I can bring those aspects in your history, in the gender curriculum. Let them read about Africa first, and continuously by historical trajectories will be unfolding to the extent by where did the problem start? Was it African who created the male dominance, or was it the colonial capitalist force that generated conditions for male dominance? Tibabo led Matraki destroy in Africa. So Matraki, you cannot destroy it. Come on, Serere people. I can cite an example. The Serere Matraki. When the Kabu forces invaded Serere land in Sin, Serere Kweleko, not left Ale Mansaja to Kabu Kolo. Alte Mansala no because Alman Tarantol Kono. But Nalba Mansala be Musola Bon la royal family, Nadia la ni way futu. Wo muso dingo muntol fa barin dingolti. Which means wo muso la royalty, what about to dinke legitimizer to become a leader? You see how matrilineal Lua Kanani Musuyala Nyamim Kakela legitimacy reinforced in power. Nini Mankara Molta Alona. Wala kita Maisa Wali John Maneti, the first Serere king, born by Makabunka father, and were a maternity Budamuntole from Serere royal family. So you can see how even a woman can bring alliances of two ethnic forces in Africa. Even ethnicity will end here. The first king of Serere land came from a Kabunka Mandinka father and came from a royal woman mother from the Serere land. Where is the difference? Look at how these people were like this. Political compromise and alliances. Nimma reflect na political front standard lano. But falia jibero tarikola ali alo minum Africa institution si falle londi fonle before the infiltration of all these kind of confusions. Confusion of me alonko is not even aligning coming from one. For example, Queen Seba, remember, look at the dialogue between Queen Seba and the council. And the Quran is telling us that how God demonstrates the power of woman's opinion over men. From Bulale, are we going to allow them to come and we fight with them? Men say, yeah, we have to fight with them. The woman say, no. If you fight with them, all what we have gathered, all the development, will be actually raised one day. And later they all see Muso. So Alakatandilako, Muso fell political decision making, our opinion of better than guilty. So Minana Molbaflako, Musumaralo is what and what. Then could they rejected the Quranic historical scenario here?
Yeah, okay, Nene.
Yeah, Professor. Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you, Sky Power Radio and TV listeners, and keep watching for another inspiring conversation here on Sky Power Radio and TV services. Professor, this is really, really, it's very, very inspiring, and it also makes us really, really reflect and think carefully about how to proceed, because I think there's a lot of misinformation and hidden information, because if you don't know your history, you're lost. You're a lost people. You are genuinely a lost people, and we're genuinely a lost people, and that's sad. That is so sad. It makes me sad. It makes me sad. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Yala Jemuela is a bit emotional because puro nim filo boku kono jama kujamal katunuring, and it is very important. Maybe belundo jivelangam zul be command, including my sister Ami Bojang Ning. We all come here, and then Imamul Fanang invite Amma Jete, Amme Jete, and Sidi Ali Jane, Dr. Jane. I'll try and invite them all. Ngam zul be inviting a history Fanang Surujam. Puro. Islamo la jero musola fannala, tariko la jero musola fannala, and in tubabulando la jero la musola fannala. Because you long quote minne alay bo mol batanikan dobia ka mol confusion di cool kono. And you know fenne de mi alom fonsina ngefo. Ni ajen defango ka diamu. Makarang bari nimni ka programo ke jang. Wolbe mo molle de minni alon ko e bika musola kol doyande bari akatala ko minni ka information o samba okay it all ka fanna kilin na jibe and then ko fango the important in broadcasting and then in journalism the fango nananga min demanding mo ko anything fango fang nail after column you need to define it for us along follow by nail after ka define pro give us the definition of etika minfo ko janni ka kacha along follow. So near along, then that would help you elaborate no on the branches. But in Niman Kulong, ya kumasi sambe Niman Kula Natariko long, jama ita to fill it in Kuokonole. So Nimu Kula te mi along ko akumata back and both of them miralale, but nene mimfojang, fanang kumada. Coming a la observation on doctor, Namingi ye walling indiko. Iti amira bi nim mo ba fala nene nyole minni ya lonko e benyin ko kono muna bakela ila kono to diati
intela kono to diam be kala min wala nyinti handi be kirilo le kala ka min dila ko I think they need to come with a proposal for historical research on gender history in Africa, entirely purely about Africa, from the ancient time to the modern era. You can look at the women, not so or matriarchy, in the context of history, from the ancient to the modern era. Now you look at the Alpha Kela Mokak Alia Nini Alia Fontindi, then you'll be able to equip yourself with the historical realities. And then that will help you a lot to do the comparative study. And it will help you to understand whether the Western infiltrated conception is actually for but it's going to affect or whatever people here around here. So you understand that it must be cultural, traditional based, because Africa is completely different in terms of so ethical, moral context different. Because African morality and the Western morality are quite different. African morality and the morality in Arabia are quite different. What do you generate for Africa when you are dealing with the gender issue? And what do you do? Look at the Africa entirely exclusive of other areas. First, when you are equipped with African historical realities, then anything but when you are not afraid with African historical reality, Abina Fofen Sambala is going to constitute conflict. So wala nyinti kombal kono to dia mina wala nyinti ala try alle historical aspects. You need also learn on gender kajibero ke musola ibe nyadi le society kono influence nyadi le soto musol tare ke sojaro battalion will lead in Africa, for example, like Titina Silla, you know Titina Silla and others. Today we went to Geneva Sawa now musol mina ko they were general nkum defan kumbota wolu e PIG la America Cabral la party ila biro to birin talaje inata mitu wala ater muso mi ko more than 8 years fay ka muta tene nakata e konne ko nyimu so general bira ba tibabol kelendila. So I think women need to go and look at those things, although we are working on documentaries on that, but muso nyatale ya jibeu wala nyadile muso 8 years they were general minyanko Portuguese only recognized because they were nationalist general protecting a nation from the capitalist infiltration under Portuguese colonialism. So, Ali gender historical unit for African gender historical unit ala londi. Nali alondi every ala problem will be solved.
Nene, what do you think? Historical unit of gender. What do you think?
I think it's an amazing idea, and it's definitely a possibility, and it is something that we have to definitely look into, because in Tolia Fengol Menumoi from the fact that Musona Lafano, Wotenyi Banco rule, Wananate Mansayano la Africa kono or Gambia kono, honey Europe kono, honey America kono, it's a huge problem. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Even to get it in the so-called Western democracies, it's a it's a real issue. We're even told, even in the European context, even in the Nordics, where, for example, I'm living and we're the one who are leading in terms of gender equality. We're 300 years away from any form of reaching gender equality. No country has reached it. No country has able to attain it in any capacity, whether it is in salaries, whether in different aspects. So do you know what I'm trying to say? So the gender, what you're saying is creating this unit and working towards that is very, very important. But what I have also, in my little years of being an activist, a gender activist, I have come to a deep, profound notion that this cannot be done without men. This cannot be done because the men that sit with the power, if they're not willing to share it, it's never going to happen. I take care of So do you know what I'm trying to say? So how we're going to, even though they says no, we have to work with the woman first. I believe I something just tells me that for something to give, it has to be, we have to work together on this. And then we
Dr.
are
What do you think?
also give birth to the men. We give birth to you, we raise you, we are your mothers, your grandmothers, your sisters. So we have to change a lot of things from that start as well. So
Then the spirit is
something just
coming now.
tells me that, yes, something tells me that that is where we have to start. So it might not ever be in my generation. It might not even be in my only daughter's generation, but in generations to come. If we're 300 years away, that is a lot of work that needs to be done. But I just have a feeling that this cannot. So many of the projects that our organization and I like to work with, that's why my favorite people in gender is working with men. I love working with men, not because I love men, but I just feel that I cannot go far if I don't get the young people on board and them understanding the dynamics of this. Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
What do you think, Doctor? I mean, for young. Yeah, well.
Yes, I know that it is something that was actually handed over to men in Africa. That is, if two parties are struggling and one party is given the power, sometimes it is difficult to hand over. So, but historical consciousness will actually inspire the other party to actually generate a pathway that will lead to their liberation. You can't liberate yourself without history. Many women need to read history a lot. Yeah, because you know that they say women cannot, but the Quran is telling the women had the best opinion in the political or decision making. In the Quran, so whoever is telling you that women in the world Islam, that's I think that is a lie. It's not even like a misconception, but it's a lie. If Queen Seba from Ethiopia could do that in his actual contact, in his attempt to actually meet Solomon, for her state to survive as a result of the peace. My sister, the Quran is confirming this story. Who can actually oppose the Holy Quran or Quranic version? Tell you the woman cannot be a king. What does the Quran say about a woman? And the Quran say positive thing about the role of this decision the woman made over the man's decision. So what is these are clear things. Yeah. So
But
we just
do
want
you
African
think-
gender, leading gender activists to be very, very careful with history. And I know that most of the funding are coming from Western world. It may serve also as motivation or whatever for them to actually stick to Western oriented ideology. But we want you to also actually put it at the back of your mind to invoke history in order to save minds, in order to inspire people, so that they could actually generate change in every aspect. But we know that change can be done. It cannot be done if women are running away from history. It's the historical.
Yeah, but Lena's thought is, you think it can happen without men? You think?
It's a collective endeavor. It's a collective endeavor. And then if I, for example, I am in, for example, NRP party, you are in the NPP party, we are struggling for power. I am NPP holding the power. Do you think welding the power? Do you think I'll hand over power? It's just like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Already, men are, it's a fear of men. Look at what
Yes.
they say about the creation, that women came from the rib of men. It has never been indicated in the Holy Quran. These are the Jewish stories in order to marginalize women. What of rib?
Exactly.
God
Exactly.
said that both men and whatever, they came from the same soul. I can even very well hear. But the rib is what? It's a, you see, don't understand. Yeah, we have to do that in order to actually consolidate our hegemony. But if you then also come to debunk or through history, that will help you to come and debunk. It's not true. Tell us it's not true. Where is it indicated? It is not
But
true.
it has look, something is wrong with this.
Exactly.
Because you tell a brain,
From
I
the
don't
rib.
know, something. Fenneka, near fendol fonye.
From the rib, where? From the rib.
I can't understand this. Something
From
is
the rib.
wrong
When
with
they say
this.
with a rib, so you are just in the position of a man. Conceptually, conceptually, it's not a Carol, but you are just from the rib of a man.
Yeah.
So it means that you are just a kind of a little whatever. But what of the soul? Soul come from the same. I say they come from the soul, just like colonut. Huh? So these are all things.
I remember like before I got divorced, it was so interesting. You can do a konyoko. Honey take la komale because you get musobukela nyato. But I like this side of the bed. Do you know what I'm not honey? Hey, Islam ko. I'm like a lot of things that you can manufacture.
Yeah.
Logic for make sometimes in for poor kono.
People are thinking of physical. They are talking of physical differences. It's not a physical entity letter. Niko physical. Ala fanko kelmu musola tankarawde. Ala wala dila physical. But nata dibe e kom ala funa do di nyina. Amo ditela. Itela ka diwo dun kar kononto. Itela ka diwo dun kar kononto. So naka be fo physical kilo dila momi kar ka diwo dun. Naka be keya dila tela kela sembo dila tela. Ayela musu sembo dila not so. Kete kala fenti. But I mean,
not only that, professor, even giving birth, it's almost like how many fractured bones giving birth, that pain.
So that
a man cannot even cope with that pain because it's like about I think about 27 times. That is a lot of pain. Muso coming endure a body corner.
And that don't endure. So when I physical
fractured bone.
Physically, physiologically, it very in another. So you never combine a canoe tanker complementarity.
Yes.
But ni nada hakilo ni londola. Ala mafa nyinte londo sotola. Imu lonna musulonna ke lonna. Not so. Musumimino ke mumino. You understand what I'm saying? So ba ko alka jibe albe nga fenne di albela albe min ditela ibina fela tableau kan ngamin ditela ina fe tableau kan kema keya bi jele physically ale wodi alal bal nyimmin ka wulu ato wodi la wala biko wulu ra awodi so te bolo nala wulu fen kantala wo fana be wulu ala wulu fen abina fela te alandie ite na te wulu fen alandie ça été kanta complement albe mu role lati so encore une fois ba nal ya understand ko parti ko politique parti sanno parti political onde ninte pawdo manta sonete na maralola de but nal ya fo fili fana you understand so musobe londo le nyinla docteur folo dunia kono the whole world docteur folo misro dunia kono mo fi musolo in the ancient Egypt during the pharaoh he was the first doctor in the world I medicine long along mimbe kere but ni mal karandi nyimbe la ta lonna malo falka understand so wala mi but fale ta tariko ko na lenyi long kwini wala ndi jasa fele na fa last time den kan ko mo kufa sanyang carton tujere ibebe nyoka no wato number 1 farabulo ko ka problem oti dobje ay carton muta ay carton move ako carton move muso ya ko di ako carton al move alba patrolling aleta carton ma fa anata kuten sufulawe sonko la jabon nim bojangolu akoyle ko atol bi janna ma horma ñun na nate nim kuro na kanam man sata ya buñandi ali bule tollon alkaloti andal be bule ali tiom fo yeren tu jeren akoyle to fo yeren so e musola kamo jele even in combo here but musol nanta ñinno lonna and she was the religious leader because atele ni bota na dani beke fetla biri je dalo tarje mam min cross no atele hero ya mala ko hero ko boy inata mo hero ke gola ne ka fo dulay kobo ako kobo ko hey kobo think about look at karama ale power min the intercessory power and spirit I could be another mol man taino imale be tela dalo nyame ka cross ako kobo ko hey ila banga na teme kam ala mo kobo ela ibe tamata kan that is the power muso minke di ala power to wonne ka fo dulay ko bi sala ni tal sanye bataraje ikabda me ko bi sala kobo I wole ya mara boy. So you see power in religion in everything in the historical space even muso taradel demonstrated clearly but now Natariko kende Natariko inspirational di moral inspiration pour ye fam fontindi tamo fela tata
kumada bake janem bita let's say Dudu start Dudu I comment jamba sa vejang we like to see comments and contributions to be fair isaje mobe alafa in your vocabulary ako malam for you can see comments ako British colonial rule in the Gambia, for instance, continued to reinforce the demise of matriarchy in Africa. The Western educated elites began to use their father's name instead of their mother's as a middle name. Example, Sirif Sekuba Sise and Sirif Mustafa Diba. In traditional West African communities, the mother's name follows a person's first name. Also, the PSC regulations require female civil servants to adopt.
Very interesting.
From my experience working in PMO, many female civil servants to adopt their husband's surname. From my experience, civil servants female encounter difficulties because of this rule. Comment, this is an interesting comment, your thoughts.
In West Africa, iba fele ko janke wali ba to ya adopt wolto bintu Morisane bintu isi wobe Africa kono le before ka min foye so jumale na to change is Western capitalism because niya gibe ka matraki ka promote aninka kella sembo promote tibabo le yek muso doya in the industrial context muso doya tije so ba ko bili that bukol nata ntol ngo tanga adam say now they are coming up again and they are telling we want to restore that abemu kind of global economic ka enhance fond because nim conflict maintain in tema nim musol tema ntamira no kan na bolo dadan ntamira no kan na borka sol dadan fond na computer dadan fond ntolbe tara conflict ko while ntolbe conflict ko itolbe computer invent la if a mobile invent la if a phone invent la their market is continuously thriving in Africa and Africa became consumer independent. This generated and created African periphery in the world system. I don't know any more global context and globalization of the issues, ideas that are coming also affect Africa in many ways because I can conflict in general.
Professor, 1% decide everything. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So this is it.
Right. What would the back be? Kaja diata nga kukutol karang aga bete abake lulu ni kukutol karang balu kono malom where do we go with this? Maybe nene labang advice la wola because you move fende de mi alonko nene ngamira feyete sula jane there is something I'm not law hamne sohla inko from a collaboration because don't we here Sky Power is established for civic education. Well, and most of our programs is to educate people, sensitize people religiously, historically, politically. Because all asabu na political program wala kana every Saturday nenyo katara all training different fengol. So Friday na religious program wala kana pur mol kana mol filindi wala asabu. That program was able to raise a lot of money Fonga wo Alkurano base in Mandinka nga print we copy it ready. So we're launching it. You are all invited. Na launching Bekela April 27 in Sweden, Gothenburg, Betharalaji to do the launching of that. So
Thank
we'll
you so
discuss
much.
that separately. So maybe Doctor will send you an invitation for that because Ngamwele, you're always in Nigeria and all over the place, so we'll invite you.
Yeah, but
Because
unfortunately we don't have a Swedish embassy in the Gambia. And,
no, you go to Senegal. You go to Senegal and get your clearance and then come down.
I would like to get some text, some of the text. I don't know how much are you selling the books?
Yeah, the price will come to that. They are currently it's got volume 1 to 4, so the whole Quran in Mandinka and then translated in the English Mandinka and then the meaning of it. So the volume 1 to 4 is like 111 pound, 110 pound, which is like $7,000-8,000. The volume 1 to 4, so that includes the postage to you wherever you are. So, lafta min fola jam wolon kacha diata. Malong, because nkala feel fewo fen ninga kacha nene, I like us to develop something out of it to benefit the mass. So I think we all learned something here today, something new. I did. I'm not sure nene malong for if you do, you can let us know.
I did a lot.
So this is something me alonko we could develop it and see the history side of it. And then I know some men me alonko they are in it, but they're light-minded. Mia Lonko, we can use this platform or any other platform. Mia Lonko have got connection to educate people about this and then develop it into something else. Sometimes it can be time consuming, but with the determination coming in Kurano Minketeng, it's always possible. But because Nena Kavanyame, I don't think it's possible in our generation. It is possible. We can do this together. Ningake will strike. And then we will do something up. Let's have that at the back of mind. So, Nene, before we go, Marlon Munabakelela, your final thoughts you want to share with us?
Well, Mustafa and Professor Toure, and obviously your prestigious Sky Power Radio and TV listeners and viewers. This has been an immense honor and for me, and I think I learned a lot and a lot of things that I have to now reflect on. I think it's also harnessed a deeper understanding of why I have issues with the Islamic leaders. It has. I mean, I don't even think I will blame them anymore. I don't even think I will waste my energy, time, effort, or resources to even argue with them anymore. Because a human being, you only act from what you know, and yemen karang, ikaw doron ne sot. You know what I'm trying to say? So obviously, nitol kasije ka jube kontol mukafiro lati ntol western funding wala kantol samba ndol man dino ntol nanate barakala dunia kono. I now know where that concept comes from. And at the same time, mfananka understand le munatina nteni nyul buka nyoje no ni nekun ni band. So concept yo yep understand na kote. So I now understand the importance of lutan day mune ma ñew tay fi ma deglu li ma understand li ma understand ma faham lu bari li nga xamne xawma ko won tay legi xamna ko tay. You know what I'm trying to say. So I just want to thank you. You people need to really continue the work that you're doing. I didn't know how important. Dave's always telling me, Deglu lead, go to this. I'm on this platform. I'm this and that. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna jot. But I quite understand how important it is.
You bari amun jot in Europe and abroad. You bari amun jot. But now you're going to find time for this special history. How do you call it? The history side of it in gender empowerment.
Yeah,
you're going to be the head of
that. I think you need to think about that. Come up with something and collaborate with Africans and the scholars to create that unit, so that if you are actually initiating anybody in this gender crusade, let the person go through that to understand African context.
Yes.
that will help them to situate every aspect or elements coming from the wave of Western ideology. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I think
It
we
is
will do
definitely
that.
it's thought provoking for future
know.
projects.
Mhm,
Absolutely. And
mhm.
it just took one session. So do you know what I'm trying to say? Sometimes you need to go before you get that aha moment. It takes a while, but it came immediately. So and
Exactly.
it gave me so much, like I'm saying, so much information, even with the way the imams think. Where have they where's the background of their educations? Where's all this information coming from? You know what I'm trying to say? And yeah. So yeah, absolutely. It was well worth it. Well worth it. Yeah.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Mm.
I
So,
can't
Thank
thank
you
you
so
both
much,
enough.
Sky
Thank you
Power.
very much. Yeah.
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, energy, and effort. Thank you, Nene Bojang. We'll
Thank
be
you.
seeing you very shortly,
Yes.
maybe another time, so that we organize something, maybe with the imams this time. And Doctor, thank you for your time, energy, and effort. Hopefully, we see you next week, inshallah. Thank you all for your time. Have a nice weekend. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yo, bro, lamarlani jiberal mo bada wada ni be watu do nyina na lokum program na Natariko coming to the Cameroon Skype or radio and TV services Dimasu Dimaskabo Talan Lulu UK time. Yo, being a Mormon based on the comment and maybe Tentulam Bejela. Thank you all very much for your comments and contribution. Ala baraka bake. Bari abe kumala bake ni alka program nyinshia isaje the civic education kumol mini foroja isa mol be nafa e ke mol de mi alonko abe mol la hajol jaral wala sa ke mol sula kuti mi alonko asake mol falin bundati wala kuti mi alonko mol sadra america mol be tentula mini program nyinshia be tentula mini comments ke jam be tentula mol mini ala la wato ta pour kataram fe jam Nene Bojang from Norway, Meten Tulambejela, Dr. Professor Enza Touré, lecturer at the University of the Gambia, Martin Tulambejela. Brung Water Sunina Medana Jana for Dimas Nala, inshallah. We're on Skype or radio and TV services on Albadi Mala Mustafa, Yamme Mimbesiri, program or Kuna for Dimas Nala, inshallah. Alima.